to see you folks, see so many faces. A lot of names I recognize, a lot of names I'm sure Jack recognizes. We're grateful that you're here today. We're just going to spend a little time. If you're familiar with us, great. We're going to spend some time talking about some of the updates that you might not be aware of with our Just Faith Catholic series and then our Good News People program. And we'll mention our other programs certainly as well. And then if you're not familiar with us, you'll learn a little bit about our history and things like that. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Susie Tierney. I'm the Executive Director of Just Faith Ministries. I have had a long history of working with Just Faith Ministries. I was in one of the first national groups across the country in 2002. So I'm excited to be in the director chair today and excited to be here with all of you to share about the programs. So we're going to start, before we go into sort of the nuts and the bolts of the programs, and then we will definitely leave time for you all to ask any questions that you have. I just invited Jack to share a little history to frame the conversation about Just Faith Ministries. If any of you aren't familiar with Jack Jezreel is not only a national presenter and one of my favorite presenters, but he's the founder of Just Faith Ministries, and we're happy to still have him on staff in a advisory role and a director of membership role to this day. So Jack, you want to take it from here?
Thanks, Susie, and welcome everybody. Just because I can see some names here, I know that some of you are very familiar with Just Faith, but for my part of this, which is relatively brief, just 10 minutes or so, I wanted to give some of you who are unfamiliar with us to just a little bit of historical background and a bit about what we're trying to accomplish. So really, the story about Just Faith begins in a very practical place. I was working at a Catholic parish here in Louisville, Kentucky. I was hired as the director of social concerns at the parish. And it didn't seem to matter what I offered. I couldn't get more than 4 people to attend anything I did. And it was always the same 4 people. And so I had a little image of what purgatory looked like. It was spending the next 100 years of my life with the same 4 people on Tuesday evening, complaining about the fact that there were only 4 of us there. Just about the time that I was about to let it all go, and meaning I've gotten so discouraged, I was just ready to quit. I wondered what was it about my experience that made me so passionate about social mission, the work of compassion and justice and mercy, and other people found it so utterly uninteresting. And I just thought about my own background. I had spent 7 years, 4 years as an undergraduate and the 3 years as a grad student studying theology, and during that time was introduced in a big way to Catholic social teaching. And then that was immediately followed by 6 years of living and working in a Catholic worker community, working and living with homeless men, women, and children. And then out of that experience, then I was invited back into parish life. And that's where I found myself just about the time before Just Faith was born. And what I realized looking around me in the parish was that all the people around me, they weren't bad people. Just because they didn't come to any of my meetings, they weren't bad people. They loved their kids, they loved their church, they were committed to their faith. What they didn't have, though, was they had not had 2 things that I had had. One was an opportunity to explore, investigate my faith tradition in an intensive, extensive way. It was called grad school. And the second experience is they hadn't had what Pope Francis would call the kind of encuentro that I had had living and working with homeless people on the street. That there was something that had changed my life, much like had impacted the life of St. Francis of Assisi when he kisses a leper. That kind of relationship, that kind of moment, that encounter that seems to change everything. And so out of just that reflection, I decided to try to offer something that would kind of mimic those 2 experiences, obviously realizing that people are not going to quit their jobs and drop their family and go to Notre Dame and get a degree in theology, and nor were they going to quit everything they were doing and then live on the street with homeless people. But what could I do to kind of approximate those experiences in a way that would make it available on the parish level. And so JustFaith was really an effort to try to combine an extensive, intensive experience, giving adults a chance to really dig into some meaty, challenging, sometimes difficult issues, but through the lens of faith, through the experience of prayer, through the experience of community, in the context of community, and then providing them with some kind of encuentro in the program, whether it was reading, video, in-person experiences, prayer, all the rest, all focused on that intersection of our faith and, if you will, the option for the poor and the vulnerable. And so JustFaith was born out of that effort. And so we got started. We had no idea what would happen because there, as far as I could tell, there was no template. I'd look for other examples of this so I could mimic them, but there were none. And so what I ended up doing, quite frankly, was I mimicked my experience with the RCIA, the catechumenate. I thought of a longer process. I thought of how do you know, that was really kind of the paradigm that was in my head. To make a long story short, the people who went through the program that very first year, which was 1989, were changed profoundly. So we offered the program a second time, and basically just on the testimony of the people who went through the program, everybody in the second year was profoundly changed again, and it happened a third and a fourth and a fifth year. And pretty soon the parish started to change because every time someone came out of the program, they ended up starting new programs, new projects, new ministries in the parish, and other people in the parish would join them, and it had a ripple effect on the parish. Again, to make this very long story shorter, Catholic Charities USA found out about the project, and again, to make a long story short, ended up becoming the sponsor of a one-year project that would involve introducing JustFaith to parishes all over the country. And really with very little marketing, almost no, no real strong promotion, we got started that year. About 1,000 people in 70 parishes got started. The impact was extraordinary. The second year we had about 180 parishes, about 2,000 people. The third year we had 290 parishes, over 3,000 people, and the project continued to grow. So Catholic Charities then invited Catholic Relief Services, Catholic Campaign for Human Development into the partnership, and we started getting the benefit of the promotion of those organizations, and we grew and we grew and we grew. We started to develop other programs, and you can find more about those programs. Susie will say more about them in just a second. So that's a little bit of the history, just a little bit about what we're hoping to do. I think what we're hoping to do is three kinds of transformation. You know, the language of metanoia, conversion, new life, new sight, putting on the mind of Christ, walking in the footsteps of Jesus. All these words speak to the possibility of how does the human person become more Christ-like. That is, we think about what does it mean to be a fully alive, fully human being, and we use Jesus as the example. And so I remember one time going to a conference, and the speaker was doing something he thought was completely appropriate. He was talking about imitatio de Christe, or the imitation of Christ. You know, how do we imitate Christ? And a young guy at the conference, he raised his hand. He said, "I don't want to imitate Christ." He goes, "I want to feel what Christ felt. I want to think what Christ thought." And I thought, gosh, that is so great. How do you put on the mind of Christ? How do you actually walk in the footsteps, not to mimic somebody else, but to be your own genuine self, if you will, inflamed by the Holy Spirit, alive with God's presence, because you know who you are in God's presence. And so we seek kind of three transformations. One is this personal transformation that many people talk about after they've been through a JustFaith Ministries program, that the program really does in some ways alter the trajectory of their life. And you'll often hear people talk about, I love people in places I hadn't loved before. I'm caring about things that I had not cared before. I'm living my life differently than I had lived it before. The way I spend my time is different than the way I used to spend my time. And all of it in some ways is steered by the language and the logic of Catholic social teaching and Catholic spirituality, which is when any one of us becomes fully alive and fully human, we become a people for all people. Everybody becomes our sister and brother, and the concerns of every sister and brother become my concerns, which is just another way of talking about compassion and justice. How do we craft the world in which every one of our sisters and brothers can live a dignified life? That's transformation number one. Transformation number two is when enough people in a single place have this experience, you begin to develop some kind of extraordinary capacity in your community, whether it's your church community or your city or a network of churches. But together we can do things that we can never do just on our own. You know, it's the language of solidarity. It's the language of community organizing. It's the language of being church, a people of God. And the things we can do when we're connected to each other are much different than the things that I can just do my own. For example, I would never go to Haiti by myself, but you give me 6 or 7 other people to hold hands with, I can go just about anywhere. And I think that's what I mean by that. We just things that we're empowered to do with each other that we cannot do on our own. And then the third transformation I talk about is just, and I think what brings us all together here is the transformation of our world. We would like, each one of us would like to think our lives count, and they count in the direction of helping to craft a world, to build a world, to together work on a world in which every one of our sisters and brothers at the end of the day can say thank you, right? We want to be able to celebrate Eucharist with a small e, meaning everybody can say thanks at the end of the day because their life is dignified, because their life knows hope and knows possibility, knows housing, knows food, knows community, knows fairness, knows equity, knows inclusion, right? Those are the things that we all, drawing from our Catholic social teaching tradition, are important to us. And so that is the very quick history of Just Faith, but also some sense of what we're trying to accomplish. In the meantime, I think a lot of diocesan staff over the years have found us to be a particularly important collaborator, a partner with them, because we build constituency for the work of social mission. That's really it. I mean, I know a lot of you do social mission. I know you'd like to see more people engaged in your ministry. And quite frankly, that's what Just Faith does. It's got that metanoia component that really, in some ways, alters people's passions. It steers in the direction of God's work of trying to heal the world. Susie, I think I'll stop there and kick it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jack. Appreciate the history, and I'm sure everybody here appreciates that snapshot as well. I get the job of launching into the nuts and bolts of what does Just Faith Catholic and Good News People look like today, especially if you haven't used it in the last 2 or 3 years. Just let me start at the top by just thanking, we enjoy a lovely collaborative relationship with Catholic Relief Services. If Vivi's on this call, thank you, Vivi and Roberto, and Catholic Charities USA and CCHD. And in fact, I need to share that the JPHD Office of the Bishops, and in particular, Jill Rao, was just instrumental in helping us with some of the resources that we use in the Just Faith Catholic program. And of course, Catholic Relief Services and Catholic Charities USA permission to use their resources and to utilize them in a way that made sense. So I just want to say that at the top that those things are appreciated. So let me screen, assuming I'm not going to have any problem sharing my screen here. In the first, right, there it is. I actually have some slides. I'm not used to talking with slides, but here we go. The Just Faith Catholic program today, many of you may know it as having a history of being a long program, as Jack talked about. You know, it was 32 weeks at one point, it was 24 weeks. We now have, all of our programs now are 8 weeks, and our longer programs we call a series. So that is the same, that same thing applies to our Just Faith Catholic program. It's now a Just Faith Catholic series, and there are 3 programs in the series. So the first program in the series is Faith and Poverty, a Biblical Response. The second program in the series is Faith and Poverty, a Solidarity Response. And the third program in the Just Faith Catholic series is Faith and Poverty, a Justice Response. The goals, so let me start with the first program in the series, Faith and Poverty, a Biblical Response. The goals of the program are to learn these foundational, what our director of programs calls postures, that we assume when we talk about alleviating poverty. The next slide is going to lift up what she means by those postures. To learn about who we are as children of God and what it means to participate in this building up of the kingdom of God, particularly as it relates to alleviating poverty. And then another primary goal is to develop a biblical understanding of the word justice. This is our Catholic social teaching, putting legs and motivation under the themes of Catholic social teaching and what that word means for us, what the word justice means for Catholics and our communities. So the topics, or the postures, if you will, that's the word that she uses in the response. The first program in the series is Holy Conversation versus Debate. Every single one of our programs is grounded in the notion that we want it to be a conversation, and that we lay the groundwork for respectful dialogue versus debate. And so that's how every one of our programs start out. Compassion versus tolerance, wonder versus judgment, abundance versus scarcity, equity, equality, and social justice, and the difference between those. Working with instead of working for, and then reading the scripture with the poor. And then, just like all of our programs are grounded in holy conversation, or in holy conversation, folks, when I say that, I just mean conversation that's grounded in the notion, the number one principle of Catholic social teaching, that all of us are made in the image and likeness of God, and therefore we respect each other as people created in the image and likeness of God. Just like we ground our programs at the start in that, we end all of our programs in a call to action. In some of our programs, I love the way our director of programs actually names this. For some, you might be familiar with the pastoral circle, but she talks about the what, so what, now what? What is the issue? So what? Why is it important to people of faith? And now what? Now what is ours to do? So those are the topics in the first program in this series. I will go back to that slide and say that every one of our programs contains a guest speaker, and that guest speaker is typically brought into a group in session 5. In the first program in the Just Faith Catholic series, there is also a retreat. This retreat is done after your first couple of sessions. And you typically between session 2 and 3 in this first program in the series. For the in-person version, it's a one-day retreat. It's an 8 to 5-ish. And for the virtual version, it's a 3-hour retreat. We intentionally put a retreat in our programs because that retreat is designed to build community among the members of the group. So it's really important to us that to have this holy conversation that acknowledges the image of God in others, that we ground it in relationship, which is the retreat. There's also an immersion experience in every single one of our programs. And every program in this series has an immersion experience. That's not a service project. An immersion experience in our minds looks a little bit more like, instead of going and serving a meal at a free meal site or soup kitchen, or you would actually go and just sit down and have a conversation with the guests and learn a name. I always said, if you're lucky, you'll learn more than a name. But that's the kind of immersion experience that we hope that the groups will engage in. For in-person groups, it's a literal moving out of your space and going to another space, immersing yourself in somebody's life and experience. For virtual groups, it's a holy immersion virtually. So the group has to come into your virtual space if that's how you're meeting. So let me move on here. The second program in the series, the goals of Faith in Poverty, a Solidarity Response, are to learn about the experiences of people in poverty, to have a better understanding of the dynamics that make it difficult to move out of poverty, and then again, to discern personal and social action as it relates to poverty in your community. So as the first program in the series sets the Catholic social teaching, the foundational, why are we called to engage the work of alleviating poverty? This particular program really dives deep into the experiences of people who are experiencing poverty, and their stories, and what are some of the things that make it really difficult for people to move out of poverty. Some of the topics, the dignity of work and the rights of workers, the cost to live, the social safety net, the cliff effect, poverty and health, trauma and addiction, housing. And then this one ends with grassroots organizing 101. So again, a call to action. The second program in this series contains an immersion experience and a guest speaker opportunity. It doesn't contain a retreat because our hope with this series is these programs are absolutely meant to build on each other. If that's a question running through your mind, the answer is yes. So we hope that it's the same group that does program 1, moves on to program 2, and moves on to program 3. We want the group moving on. We don't recommend bringing new people into the second program or the third program because this is a program designed to build on each other. So there isn't a retreat in the second or third program simply because the assumption here is that the group is the same group. But it does still that immersion experience and can still contain the guest speaker opportunity. For those of you that are familiar with our previous versions of the Just Faith program, one of the options for the immersion experience in this second program of the Just Faith Catholic series is the Journey to Justice Day. So we do CCHD's Journey to Justice Day. So that is an option that folks can do. The last program in this series, the Just Faith Catholic series, is Faith in Poverty, a Justice Response. And so this gets at the systemic barriers that really make it difficult for people to move out of poverty. It studies the techniques of people who we view as spiritual leaders, Pope Francis and Martin Luther King and Brian Stevenson with the Equal Justice Initiative. And to discern, again, individual and social actions around how to create systemic change. The topics in this particular program in the series are talking about hard things. Here is where you will see the program blossom into the intersectionality of poverty with racism, mass incarceration, immigration, the wealth gap, the environment, and then the Catholic social teaching theme of the preferential option for the poor is lifted up, and then local advocacy 101. So again, just to reiterate the ebb and flow of the series, the first program in the series lays the spiritual and Catholic social teaching foundation. The second program really digs deep into the life experience of folks in poverty and what the hurdles people face as they try to move out of poverty. And then the third program really looks deeply at the structures that make it very difficult for people to move out of poverty. Again, there's an immersion in this program in the series, and there is a guest speaker opportunity. The resources used, for those who aren't familiar with our programs, we use books, and we have reading discussion every week during these programs. The books that we use in the first program in the series, A Biblical Response, Pope Francis' Joy of the Gospel is used, as well as Poverty, Responding Like Jesus by Ken Himes and Connor Kelly, edited by the two of them. In the second program in this series, a solidarity response, we use Evicted by Matthew Desmond. And then we use Beyond Empowerment. Beyond Empowerment is a CCHD related book. And then in the third program in this series, a justice response, we use Brian Stevenson's Just Mercy. That was made really popular by the movie that came out a couple of years ago. And then, oh, this guy, Jack Jezreel's A New Way to Be Church. We use his book in the third program in this series. And really, honestly, folks, we don't use Jack's book because he's on staff or because he twisted my arms or gave me a tip or anything. We use it because it's just, Jack has a stellar way of lifting up the social mission of the church and what it could look like. And so it's very appropriate in this program. And then there is a spiritual practice booklet that goes with each program in the series. And that spiritual practice booklet was developed by me, yours truly. And it just lifts up themes of social teaching. It lifts up stories that I share as from my experiences of working in direct service and working directly with people experiencing poverty. And so it lifts up many of the themes.
What's the matter?
Oh. So those are the resources that are used in JustFaith Catholic. There are 8 sessions in each program in the series. If I haven't said that already.
Wait.
So each of those 3 programs in the series, they each have 8 sessions. As I already said, there's a retreat and an immersion. These are additional, in addition to those 8 sessions. So I like to tell people, if you are setting up groups in your church, you may want to create a schedule ahead of time that marks out 10 days, because it's the 8 regular sessions that are 2 hours long and the additional retreat and immersion experience. So it's really 10 times the group will get together. All our programs are designed for small groups. They are designed for groups of 8 to 12 if you're meeting via Zoom. There's some logic for keeping the group just a hair smaller if you're meeting via Zoom, or 8 to 15 if you're meeting in person. We have had folks ask us over the years, can I have 50 people in the same, and we do the opening prayer together and the prayer together, and we break off into smaller groups. And the answer is you could do that, but just the process itself, the retreat has to be done by an individual small group. They're all designed to be done. The sessions are designed to be done with that individual small group. We do, if you haven't noticed already, we do have our programs in both a virtual and in-person format, so you can use them either way. Really, we put all of the Zoom sharing prompts or video conferencing links and things like that we embed them into the program manuals in our virtual version, so they are very virtually friendly. The in-person version, of course, would have the in-person prompts about how you would need to set up a room and those kinds of things. I like to say that we design all of our programs in a way that you don't have to make anything up. In other words, from the opening prayer to the closing prayer, we provide all of the content, all of the directions, all of the, we have commentary that you can use to introduce the next exercise, everything. So what it demands is somebody that has facilitation skills. And that really is it. In fact, nobody who uses our programs needs to be an expert on Catholic social teaching or the justice tradition of the Catholic Church or on poverty. But you do need to have some basic facilitation skills that you can use to guide the group in this process. And when we provide everything else to make the program fruitful for the folks in it. As I said, for both the virtual and the in-person version, we have moved to 2-hour-long sessions. That's a recent move. Our in-person version used to be 2.5 hours, but capacity-wise, we have a very small national staff. It's hard to keep 2 programs that have 2 different timings because the content has to change. And so we made a decision this year just to make both versions 2 hours long, and that allows us to keep the exact same content integrity. There are weekly assignments with every one of our programs, reading assignments out of those resources that I shared just a little bit ago, those resources there. Folks often ask me, how long does a reading assignment take for a participant? And I would say, 45 minutes to an hour a week is what a participant will need to set aside to do the reading assignments and look at the spiritual practices and engage with those. A facilitator will probably need a couple of hours a week, to do those same things and for preparation. Right now, the cost of our programs, you get a, to use this word, license. You right now, each of those programs in the series there's a one-time registration fee of $225. And that pays for the program for up to 12 months. So you can use the program a couple of times if you want in your church or your parish. And if I could just invite folks to put themselves on mute for a... Okay. So anyway, 25 gives you access to the program for up to 12 months. That's our current pricing. That is $225 for each program in this series. However, if you buy all 3 up front, if your parish opts to buy all 3 up front, there's a $75 discount, and it's $600 for all 3. And again, that's access to the program for 12 months. The books are additional. All of the books together for all 3 programs amount to about $75 a person. But of course, if you're doing each program, separately and maybe having pauses in between, they're going to run about $25 or $30 a program, as you can see. Just an asterisk here with the pricing. We will be changing our pricing in January. So this holds true if you register a group between now and the year, but we will have a new website and a new pricing system in January. So just to be aware of that. I'm going to pause and stop sharing for just a minute and take a break and a couple breaths before I talk about Good News People, which will only take about 10 minutes. What questions do you have about Just Faith Catholic? Feel free just to take yourself off mute and.
So I have a question. My wife and I are just getting into this, and right now we're not sure if we can approach or do this on a parish-wide basis. Would we still be able to participate in the program if it was just the 2 of us?
That's a really great question, Frank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, really great question, Frank. One of the things that we are doing nationally and why there will be a change in our pricing system is in January. What is lifted up is the possibility of people being in our groups, even if they don't have a parish that's doing it. So I would say yes, Frank, after January. We frequently get calls and they sound just like this. I really want to do your program on fill in the blank. Do you have any groups doing it in my area? And if the answer to that question is no, then the next question is, do you have a group that's meeting virtually that I could join? And so in January, we will be changing our system so that individuals will be able to find groups and groups will be able to find individuals. In addition to serving our historic audience, which has been, churches, parishes. So we'll have a system that's friendly to both parish-centric registrations and individual registrations.
Susie, would it be helpful to also mention to Frank that Leela Oakley on our staff actually supports people like you with trying to get a group started in your parish, even if you're a little unsure about how to do it. She will walk you through the process. She's our outreach and engagement coordinator. And so we can connect you with her if you like, because that's what she does all day, is to help people get started.
Yeah, Leela, thank you, Jack, for saying that. Leela is our outreach and engagement manager, and her entire job description is support facilitators and potential facilitators. So that's her, that's the bulk of her, not her entire, but her bulk of her job. So she is available to help people get groups going. And she's the person that I would defer anybody to that had just practical questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kathy here from Diocese of St. Petersburg. When we started some of our Just Faith groups, we did nearby parishes. So like Frank, if you and your wife know some other parishes nearby, that's how we kind of did that, was regionally, because as Jack talked about, you have the 4 in your parish, and if you get 4 more from another, then you'll have 8. So I also encourage you to think about neighboring parishes, put it in their bulletin, go check it out online. If you're interested, call me Frank, that kind of thing. So hopefully that'll work too.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kathy. We, and that's another thing that Leela will help with is we certainly, I'm going to put her, let's see.
What?
I am going to put Leela's email address here in the chat, just so you all have it. One of the things that we can do is look up and see if there's a group or a church using our programs in your area. To Kathy's point, my very first Just Faith group was made up of people from 3 different parishes. So.
Well, right now we're having a problem with. Okay.
Yeah, we're having a problem. The Buffalo Diocese, we're going to a road to a new vote of which might be merging parishes, that status might change. And
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing the question. If there's a question there.
Yeah, right now there's not a problem in our parish, but the Buffalo Diocese is going through road to renewal. And what that is they might be merging parishes or closing some and grouping them in clusters.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm not sure if this is, but we could approach our pastor about this.
Yeah. And to move us on, I would just definitely say grab Leela's email there in the chat, and she can see if there's something happening in your area.
Can I ask you a question, please? This is
Sure.
Deacon. I'm Deacon Henry. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. Somehow I'm with my position here at the diocese, I've got a link to this, so I've joined in with you. So all of this is great to me. Well, not the subject isn't great, but all that your group and what you do. We do have a group here, Pax Christi, that I think this is something that might interest them. From what I've heard. So I have this email for Leah, or whatever, at JustFaith.org. If I give that to them, will that get them to someone who can help them? Hello?
Yep.
Okay, Susie.
Sorry, the battery on my mouse is going out. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Leela. Leela
There
can
may
help.
be others, but I know Pax Christi is one that I think would really maybe find some interest in this. I'm kind of working as a liaison for the bishop here, so I try to keep up with what's going on and funnel information to people. So, and I commend you on what you're doing too. It really sounds wonderful what y'all put together.
Thank you, Henry. We, yes, some of your best allies and maybe your potential facilitators, if you're thinking about doing a group, would be your local Pax Christi group, your St. Vincent de Paul group, your Ignatian Solidarity group. So some of those folks are going to be natural allies to help support a program like this in your parish. Any other questions about the program?
Let me just mention one of the
yes.
resources to Deacon Henry.
This is
That's
Kate.
just- Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you speaking,
Go
Jeff?
ahead.
I've heard of this program in other parishes in the Diocese of Rochester, New York.
Mhm.
But I work with Latinos, and so this thing came through this morning. I thought, well, maybe they got something in Spanish there, but so I didn't know. Do you have anything in Spanish?
We don't, Kay. It's a question that we get about 4 times a year.
Okay. I tried to.
At some point in the future, it's a question that we'll have to address. But right now, people have said, well, we'll translate your program. Well, anybody that has worked with the community knows that it has to be a different program. I mean, the content has to change. It has to incorporate cultural nuances. So it's something that we look at every year, and then we have to determine whether we have the capacity.
Okay. All right. Because I tried to search and put that question in, but I couldn't find an answer there when I went to your site. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're hoping one day that might be the case.
Okay. I'll leave this now. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Lori, you took yourself on?
Hi, Susie. I'm also with Diocese of Rochester. Hi, Sister Kay. I'm in Ithaca. For the series, is it the facilitator's responsibility to find those guest speakers and those immersion experiences, or is it sort of a group process to decide that, or do you all help make that happen? So just wondering how that happens.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Lori, first of all, we give generic recommendations like contact your local, CRS representative, contact your local Catholic Charities office. So we give some directions in terms of who you want to invite, but the individual has to be at the local level. So we simply can't name that across the country for groups. So in some groups, a name will rise out of the group itself. So that's happened in a couple of groups I've been in. Also, a lot of times the facilitators actually know somebody. So both and. Yeah. I would definitely say, if you're in an area where here's another way that we can be a resource nationally is we can look around to see who else in your city or your suburbs have done our programs, and then connect you, and you can visit with them about what immersion they did and how they did it. Well, folks, I'm going to move on and just say a few words about Good News People here. And then I'll stay on as long as you all need to answer some more questions. So the Good News People program, it's actually a dynamic parish-wide faith formation program that explores and deepens the call to discipleship. So really, when Good News People was designed, it was designed to be modeled after the Renew program, which I know many of you are familiar with, where it was meant to be a whole parish catechesis, multiple small groups, and a whole parish opportunity to experience a transformation and to engage with the community and those places in the community that we're doing service. So the goals of the program are to enliven and enrich and engage parishioners, to respond to the call to be a vibrant parish with this deepening and widening of community relationships, to develop relationships, if they're not already there, with folks in your community who are experiencing poverty or who are marginalized. To expand the range of activities within and beyond the church, within and beyond your parish, and to sort of unleash this power and possibilities found in a commitment to be good news, hence the name, to the world. So this particular program has a couple of unique components. It has a Parish Kickoff. Again, if you're envisioning multiple groups, there's a Parish Kickoff, there's a Good News Gala. So those are bigger events where all of the groups come together. And then there is an immersion experience that's a part of the program, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. This is the only program that we have that's entirely contained in 2 binders, a facilitator binder and a participant binder. All of our programs, all of our other programs you access online. We have manuals, we have participant packets, we have video links and all those things. But this particular program is entirely contained in a facilitator binder and a participant binder. One of the questions you're going to have for me is, well, what if we only have 1 or 2 small groups? Can we do it? Does it have to be a whole parish program? And the answer is, sure, you can do it with 1 or 2 small groups. It's a great program, and I would highly recommend it. But just know that it's designed to really move parishes into engagement with the community. And so the ideal way to use it is as a whole parish formation tool. If you get above and beyond 2 groups, the prices of these binders go down. We have very substantial discounts the more groups that you have. So know that that's the most that the binders will cost. And if you have multiple small groups, they're probably going to be way less than that. The program itself is made up of 2 2-hour sessions again. But this program is only 14 sessions total. It's broken into, historically, churches have used it 7 sessions in the fall and 7 sessions in the spring. And then the immersion that individuals and small groups do is between those 2. So 7 sessions, everybody gets their opportunity to do their immersion experience individually as a small group if they want, and then 7 sessions again. As I've said, historically, a lot of parishes have chosen, and it works neatly on a parish timeline to do fall and spring. But certainly offer it the 7 sessions whenever it made sense for your particular parish. In each session of this program, there's Lectio Divina. There's, again, prayer, dialogue, sharing of good news stories, ordinary people who are engaging with folks on the margins or with folks who are experiencing poverty. So that's what this there's references even to the catechism. I think there's Catholic social teaching built in. So the difference between this one maybe and the JustFaith Catholic program, the JustFaith Catholic goes really deep into the concepts. This one is more, I want to say like a 101. So if you have a parish that has very little engagement with the community, or you really have an engagement, but it's not very robust, this might be the program that you want to start with just to launch that engagement. Let me go back here. Let me just say about our programs, all of them, JustFaith, Catholic, and Good News People included. We recommend these steps in terms of getting it started. First of all, you register for the program through our website at justfaith.org. You know, where do you register on our site? You just go to the program page and there's a register prompt in a couple of places. You identify the gathering format you want to use. Some of you may still be meeting virtually. Some of you may still be meeting, maybe meeting in person now. So definitely identify the format you want to use. Identify co-facilitators. Think about when you want to start the program, and then begin recruiting participants for the programs. We do provide robust promotion kits for each one of our programs. That have a graphic, that have, different resources that you can use to help promote the program. So we do provide some support there. We have training videos for, facilitators using Zoom. Leela does regular facilitator trainings. She does those once. So we have just a lot of support for our programs. The last thing I want to say, and my screen is not clicking to the next slide here, is, well, I'm going to stop share because my computer is being boogery, but let me just say a word about our other programs before I leave, because I certainly want to make you aware that we have more programs than just our Just Faith Catholic and our Good News People program. We do have several other topical programs. The reason that I focused on these two is because these two are designed for Catholic churches. All of our other programs are designed for the wider Christian community. So could you use them in your Catholic churches? Absolutely. They're Christian-based, but just know that if you use them, you will have to supplement them with specific Catholic social teaching if you want that embedded in the programs. And so that's why, we didn't make them an active part of this presentation, but I would certainly encourage you to use any of our other programs. Just know that you will need to supplement with Catholic social teaching. Just like if I get a call from a United Methodist, I tell them they're going to have to supplement it with United Methodist social principles because they're designed for a wider Christian audience. Those programs are, and let me rattle through them. Probably our most popular right now, we have a racial justice series. It's a 3-part series, just like the Just Faith Catholic, 3 8-week programs. The first one focuses on power and privilege. The second one focuses on history. And the third one focuses on issues of racial injustice that come out of that power or privilege or history. So you can learn more about those on our website. We are in the process of developing a 3-part series on eco-justice. We have the first 2 programs already launched, and the third one will be available in the spring. That program is called Sacred Land on Food and Farming, Sacred Air on Climate and Energy, and then the third one that will be available in the spring, Sacred Water on Oceans and Ecosystems. We have our Engaging Spirituality program, which integrates prayer and action. I'm a contemplative. And so any of my fellow contemplatives, or if you have contemplatives in the group, and you don't have to be a contemplative, but it's really the program that integrates prayer and action. And it invites those who have a really robust prayer life, but never engage with the needs of the world. It really says, come on. There's more to this faith than prayer. And then vice versa, it really says to those of us who are social justies and we do, it says, come on. You need to have your work grounded in something. So anyway, it integrates the two. It does a really beautiful job. It is also a 3-program series, 3 8 programs. We have a program on advocacy called Just Engagement. We have a program on hunger that we did with our partner, Bread for the World, called A Faith Response. Hunger, we just changed the name, Hunger, A Faith Response. We have a program on nonviolence. And we have a program on migration that really focuses on the southern border and issues related to Central America. So those are our programs. We also, this fall, we'll be launching a program on civil dialogue and nonviolent communication, just to address what a lot of people are experiencing right now, is a breakdown in our ability to communicate with each other. So did I miss any programs, Jack? I think.
Susie, you didn't mention what we offer for youth, but that's
Oh.
all.
Yeah, thank you. We do have a Youth for Justice program, and that's sort of there's just several topics, and those topics are each a couple of sessions. They're 2 90-minute sessions. Each topic has 2 90-minute sessions, and we leave the program itself up to youth ministers. For every youth minister I've ever met, there's a different way of doing youth ministry. And so, basically, if a youth minister wanted to put together a social justice program, they could pick the topics that they want and just make it. So we have all of those same issues that I talked about. We have programs on. We have programs on all of those in our youth program. In our youth program, we also have a session on fair trade. We have a session on homelessness, refugees. So, yeah. And friends, I'm one of those working from home moms, and my daughter doesn't have a low volume. She's 6. And I still keep looking for her low volume button. So if you're hearing that in the background, she's playing with the babysitter. So any other questions, folks?
Yeah. I'm familiar with your Good News People. Okay. Is the Catholic series something new, like brand new, or you're just reintroducing us to that?
Just reintroducing. Yeah, it's the same Good News People program. That program was designed for a Catholic audience from the get-go. Yeah, it was designed to be used in Catholic churches.
Okay, thanks.
As is the JustFaith Catholic. It's very explicit Catholic language in that one.
Susie, can I say one thing just to add a
Absolutely.
little bit of encouragement to people who know our work? For years and years, the original JustFaith program, as Susie mentioned, was a 30-session plus program. The challenge was, how do you get people to commit to a 30-session program? And that's always been the stumbling block. The good news is, and we're experiencing record registrations the past year and a half, and part of it's because everything's been reformatted, so that it's not quite so hard to recruit people. Most people can do an 8-session program, and then if they like what they're experiencing, there's an opportunity for them to do a next step. I think the hope for JustFaith Ministries is that as your parish gets involved in any one of our programs, that people find life in them. And because they find life in them, then they're willing to consider other topics. So that actually JustFaith Ministries might end up being a resource that you could use for the next 25 years, because we'll always be creating new resources. We'll always be exploring new topics, and it won't be difficult to recruit for. You'll be able to do an 8-session program and follow it up with something else if you like. So I think by way of encouragement for those of you who have known us for a long time, that has been a significant transition for us, and it's meant a lot more people can get access. And I think the other thing, Susie, I'd say is while for me, there's nothing like a hug in person. And so as soon as I can, I'm going to be in a group that meets in person. We realize that lots of people live in rural communities. Some people have young kids at home. Some people don't like to drive at night. Some people don't like to drive at all because they live in LA. And the point is that now there's a virtual version that allows just about anybody in any situation to connect with other people and still have a really robust and significant experience. We've been really, really heartened, excited by how well the virtual programs have been received and how impactful they can be, even when you don't get to see each other. I was just thinking of Leela, whose email address Susie provided. She was part of a engaging spirituality program, and she met with people she'd never seen before, and she still hasn't met in person, and they're still continuing to get together because they like each other so much. So that's just a nice story to say. By way of encouragement, think of both of these tools as assets that you can use depending upon the situation. And I think having two versions really bodes well for access and reaching folks that otherwise we might not reach.
Thank you, Jack, for saying that. And maybe I'm catching up with some of the comments in the chat. Somebody wanted me to read Leela's email address out loud. It's leila@justfaith.org. So Leila, leila@justfaith.org. I'm at Susie@justfaith.org. Not very original. Jack's at jack@justfaith.org. But Leila is really your go-to. It's her work to support us. Maybe just to circle back, the last thing that I would say in the way of our programs is sometimes in sessions like this, I get the question, well, what's the difference between your programs and a book study? And I say two primary things. First of all, our programs are very robust. There's much more than books. There's prayer, there's immersions, there's retreats, there's guest speakers, there's discernment, there's action, there's whatever. So that's one. It's way meatier than a book study. And then secondly, and I'll maybe say this a little secretly, but I'll let you in on my secret. When somebody comes to me with their witness about our programs and they say it was a great learning experience, I'm listening for the and, because we want the and. And what I mean by that is it was a great learning experience. And because of it, I committed to doing